There are a ton of cool arcade games out there, but what about the kind for RPG fans like you and me? There aren't too many full on RPGs due to the nature of the arcade and shorter playtimes, but there are RPG hybrids and quite a few really cool ones. Let's start off by checking out Dark Seal. There are actually two Dark Seal games, and they were localized under the titles Gate of Doom and Wizard Fire. They have a really nice pixel art style with an isometric view and some intense music. They actually play out a lot like action RPGs like Diablo, but the first Dark Seal came out 6 years earlier than that in 1990. It's a bit slower paced, and it has you going through different floors filled with various monsters and smashing chests to pick up loot to increase your high score. It even has a dragon fight section where you run across a bridge while a massive green dragon flies down trying to take you out before you can rescue the damsel in distress. In both games you can choose from a variety of characters: a knight, a bard, a wizard, and a ninja. But in the second game there are 5, and instead of the ninja they add in elf and dwarf. These are some really cool games, and the good news is that you can play them on some modern consoles. They're available in English as Gate of Doom and Wizard Fire on Switch. The bad news is that they were delisted from Steam and GOG, probably over some licensing nonsense. Hopping for a moment into the more obscure, we have the action RPG arcade game Guyopolis. This one immediately caught my attention with some beautiful 2D sprite work and animations in the style of game which lands it very much in the RPG camp. You'll be battling mythological beasts in this one, from massive minotaur bosses with 4 arms to armored sword-wielding masses of flesh, which actually reminds me of the chubbier of the Godskin duo from Elden Ring. You'll see if you make it there. You'll have to manage dodging with blocking and fight using your swords and a little bit of magic. The game has a ton of set-piece bosses, so if that's your thing, you'll find a lot to love with Guyopolis. There are 3 different characters to choose from, and it has a lot of game to play, clocking in at around 2 hours for a full playthrough, which is very long for an arcade game. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any official ports and is thus trapped on arcade only, though there is apparently a bootleg version of it on Famicom that has just a few stages. There is an English version of it floating out there, so play it however you can. One of the best beat-em-up RPG hybrids on arcade is Dungeons & Dragons Shadow over Mystara, and of course its prequel, Tower of Doom, both made by Capcom. This one is a side-scroller, but it has some really interesting mechanics that are unusual to this style of arcade game. You can find and equip various pieces of equipment, including weapons and armor, and you can get new spells as you play, and there are also various magical items, even hidden items that you can use. Shadow over Mystara isn't as straightforward as many beat-em-ups either. There are multiple endings and forking paths that you can go through, similar to one of my favorites from the Sega Saturn, Guardian Heroes. This is a highly recommended couple of games for fans of this style of arcade RPG hybrid. And luckily, it is easier to get a copy on modern platforms since it's available on Steam and Xbox through backwards compatibility. Kadesh is one of those classic arcade games, and it is an action RPG hybrid, almost like if you took the 2D action sections from The Legend of Zelda 2 for the NES and made an entire game based off that, with an entire leveling system and 4 different characters to choose from. You can play as fighter, mage, priest, or ninja, each with their own style that's a bit different. Kadesh is a really fun game, and you can even play it in co-op if you'd like to bring a friend. The arcade and TurboGrafx version both have 4 playable characters, and in the arcade, you can actually play all 4 in co-op. The console versions only have 2-player co-op, and the Sega Genesis version only has 2 playable characters, the fighter and the mage. As you might expect, the arcade version is much harder, while the Genesis port makes some changes, including adding in the elixir, which essentially gives you extra lives. Definitely check this one out. Dungeon Magic, aka Lightbringer in Japan, is a really cool beat-em-up action RPG hybrid. It also has the multiple playable characters with different playstyles, similar to other games on this list, with a swordsman, brawler, archer, and mage. One of the things that makes this game so fun is that you can pick up random items and use them from the ground, not only for offense but also defense, since you can find shields that block attacks. It also has a leveling system, so you can choose to take your time and get more experience, or if you really want to, you can make it more difficult and you can run past enemies and get into later sections under-leveled. There are also various secrets, so you'll want to take your time and explore. I always like games that let you destroy everything, and this one definitely has that in spades. Unfortunately, the only way to play it outside of the arcade is through compilations like Taito Legends 2 for the PS2 and PC, which isn't available on any modern platform. It's only available physically, even on PC, so you'll have to figure out a way to get your hands on the game. So that's 5 different arcade RPG hybrids, and there are a lot of really cool arcade games out there that I don't think get enough love, probably because they aren't always that easy to find and play. I have a whole list of arcade games that I could talk about, so if you want more, if you like videos on RPGs of all kinds, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.